Good evening everyone, how are you? So in this video, what we are going to do, this is going to be the second part of class 9. The video became too long, that's why I have decided to make it in two parts. In the first part, we have discussed about the Neoclassical Age, and Neoclassical Age we have discussed all the poems by John Dryden, the concept, theories, style, techniques, themes, everything we have discussed, how Neoclassical Age inspired, they started imitating by influencing the Greek and Roman period, Roman literature, Greek literature, and this imitate. Instead of focusing on the human emotions, nature, language, they try to copy the style of the Greek and Roman period. So intellectualism, the rationalism, this age is known as. This age is divided into three major ages that is discussed already yesterday, but let me recall. The first one, the age of Dryden, is also known. The age of reason, Neoclassical age, is also known as the age of reason. The age of Dryden, Augustan age, and the age of Johnson. Okay. So, age of Dryden, Augustan age, and the last one you have age of Johnson. These three are very important because they are the representative of these ages. So that's why this age is also known as the name of all these three writers. Okay. So age of Johnson, so Samuel Johnson. So these are the important highlights you have to remember. Intellectualism, rationalism, they copied, they imitate Greek literature, Roman literature, they were influenced by them. They were not focusing, or they were not meant to forward the Renaissance technique styles that was popular. Shakespeare, instead, they were trying to copy the style of theme technique of the Greek and Roman literature. So that is why this age is known as the Neoclassical. Neo means new, and the classical, you will simply go to the back, that is taken ancient. So let's discuss the further class. Yesterday we have discussed about the Dryden, and the most important we are going to discuss today. So stay tuned, do watch the video till and do not skip any part. And before starting the class, it's a request to everybody, do like the session, subscribe the channel, and also share to more and more students so that they can also get advantage of this free content. Okay, so let's start everybody. So now in this class now we are going to continue with the Alexander Pope, because Augustan age is known as the name of Alexander Pope. So in this video we are going to discuss after John Dryden. So Alexander Pope has his own significance. He is known as the master of a mock heroic style. So Pope was a master of heroic couplets and known for his polished verse. One or two times it is continued to happen each time. Polished verse, biting satire, and intellectual elegance. He is one of the defining voices of the neoclassical period. So Augustan age is related to the Pope. Let me tell you, Alexander Pope's each work, every work is very important, and you will definitely find whether in the question in the form of chronology, matching, one-liner, everything, assertion and reason, statement based. So do not skip anything related to Alexander Pope, especially his work. So major poems by Pope we have. In these units now, unit 2 poetry, we are focusing on the poems by all these writers of all the ages. Okay, So we will, the important writers, we will definitely have a separate class, so do not worry. So major poems by Pope, we have the first and very, very extremely important, The Rape of the Lock. 1712 revised version was published in 1714. A poem satirizes upper class vanity, gender norms, and tribal social conflicts. Remember, so upper class vanity satirizes. It is also satire. Gender norms and tribal social conflicts. The rape here in the title refers not to sexual violence, okay, but to the cutting of a lock of hair. So rape here, you can say that you have somehow tried to insult somebody's dignity. So that is why it is treated with mock epic gravity. The protagonist, Belinda, this is based on the real incident. Pope uses epic conventions, invocation of the muse, supernatural beings, that is sylphs and gnomes, epic battles, card games and flirtations, and grand similes all apply to a tribal domestic incident. So Rape of the Lock is very, very important work, poem by Alexander Pope. It is here the next one that you have to remember. Structure of the work. It is divided into 5 cantos, and the revised version was published in 1714, written in heroic couplets, based on a real incident between Arabella Fermor and Lord Peter, fictionalized as Belinda and Baron. The original incident, the character that you have here is Arabella and Lord Peter, and fictionalized, Alexander Pope has fictionalized and given the name as Belinda and Baron. Okay, so remember the real name and the fiction character also. It is a mock epic poem. The genre of the work is a form, heroic couplets. And what is this work all about? It is a humorous yet satirical account of a tribal event. Lord Peter, that is Baron, the villain, Peter's sniping lock of hair from Arabella Fermor, that is Belinda, turned into an epic. Whatever the situation created by Baron with Belinda, it turned into an epic. Belinda here is a heroine. Belinda here is a heroine that symbolizes fashionable society, and Sylph, who represents a supernatural guardians of vanity. He keeps guarding Belinda to try to protect her in the work. The poems that you must remember about this work is divided on the basis of the gender. First one, feminine vanity and ritual. Belinda's beauty routine is described as a kind of religious ritual, sacred rites of pride, mocking the importance placed on appearance. Women are normally shown to be trapped in a superficial world where their value lies in physical charm and reputation. What he tries to signify here that normally a general sense, if you see or if you have observed, women find their value or women fascinate with the physical charm. Normally, they do not care what happens around them, but this is what he has tried to mention here. Now the next one you have masculine aggression and power. The first one you have feminine gender and the second masculine aggression and power. The Baron's act of cutting the lock represents a symbolic violation of Belinda's agency. Hence the term rape, that is not in the use of the context in a sexual assault but theft of honor. Baron not just cut the Belinda's lock of the hair, but he somehow tried to steal her dignity, her honor, because the incident took place without permission, without in knowledge. That's why the honor word is mentioned here. And men's pursuit of women is dramatized as a conquest turning courtship into war. Then whatever situation created by a man, how women react, so it is mentioned here as a war. Then we have public reputation versus private identity. Public reputation and private identity you can simply understand with the name itself. For Belinda, losing a lock of hair becomes a public scandal, showing how women were judged harshly based on appearances and modesty. So the poem critiques how society reduces women to ornamental objects with their reputations tied to trivialities. So this is what at the end Belinda thought. The next one you have irony of female power. While women like Belinda are admired and appear powerful in social circles, Pope shows how that power is fragile and rooted in external approval. So Belinda here is not truly autonomous, but her world is controlled by beauty, flirtation, and social rules. By going through all this content that I have mentioned here, what did you understand? That one thing Pope here tried to mention, that Belinda is fascinated by her own beauty, her own world. She somehow controlled. Flirtation word is mentioned, beauty controlled by beauty is mentioned, social rules. So that is why you can imagine why this thing is mentioned here. There are the significant characters mentioned in the work. That is the we have human characters also and supernatural characters. So everything is mentioned separately. In human characters, the first protagonist, Belinda, the heroine of the poem, based on Arabella Fermor, the real incident, the real name, Belinda represents the fashionable, aristocratic young woman of that particular society. She is proud, vain, and admired, but ultimately powerless when her lock is cut. See, here he is trying to say that she is proud, vain, and admired, but ultimately become powerless when her hair is cut by Baron. Because girl's power is supposed to be, if the girl is more fascinated with the beauty, so if somebody will cut her hair, how does she feel? So this is what he trying this word is mentioned here, that she ultimately feels powerless when her lock is cut by Baron, the villainous character. The next one you have here, Baron, that is the villain who cut the hair. The male figure who cuts off Belinda's lock, ambitious, competitive, and driven by vanity as much as desire, who represents male pride and tribal heroism. The Baron is mentioned as a villain. So he cut his hair. There is an important question. He cut his hair, but with whose help? If you know the answer, you can comment. Then we have the character Ariel. Ariel is the chief of the self, the superficial, the guardian spirits who keep guarding Belinda. Ariel warns Belinda of impending doom but fails to protect her. It symbolizes failed spiritual protection or perhaps the limits of imagination. So, who is the guardian of Belinda in the work The Rape of the Lock by Alexander Pope? So, it is Ariel, the chief of the self. Next one you have Umbriel, a gnome who descends to the cave of spleen. Cave of spleen, very, very important. It is also a PYQs. To bring back a bag of sigh and vial of tears to trouble Belinda further, Umbriel visits the cave of spleen. It's very important to remember. That means when Baron cuts the lock of the hair of Belinda, Umbriel is the character that tries to create more problem for her and give and also try to create a trouble so that Belinda can feel trouble, she feel hopeless, powerless. So this is the situation created by Umbriel, the character. The next character you have here, Clarissa, very important. It is asked in chronology. Chronology, Umbriel is also important, Ariel is also important, Baron is also important, and Belinda is important. Clarissa is a moralizing voice in the poem who delivers a moral speech. Remember who delivers a speech? Clarissa from the work Rape of the Lock. Gave moral speech, give the Baron the scissor. So she is the one who gives the scissor to Baron to cut the lock of the hair of Belinda. Right is moving here and there. So Clarissa gives the Baron the scissor, yet later lectures on the vanity of beauty and the need for virtue. Her speech serves as the moral center of the poem. So that is why she is popular character. Next one you have here, Thalestris, Belinda's friend and supporter. Who is the supporter and friend of Belinda? So it's Thalestris, who keep encourages her to seek vengeance, that is revenge, and defend her honor. He somehow tried to provoke Belinda to take the revenge and take a stand of her honor that the lock that has been cut by Baron, she should take a stand. So it is a parody of exaggerated female rage and dramatization. So all these characters are very important. Then we have the blend of supernatural beings, that is also one of the important highlight in the work. Blend of supernatural beings apart from the human characters, you will face this also. So the famous the machinery. Here Pope adopts Beaulieu's advice to include epic machinery, that is supernatural agents, and uses sylph and norms inspired by Rosicrucian lore. Very, very important. Rosicrucian lore. And here the sylph, that is Ariel, the chief of the sylph, air spirits who guard women's virtue. And in this work, they try to guard Belinda's virtue, her honor. Next, it is created from the souls of coquettes. That is the flirtatious woman who lived for vanity. They want, whisper, and influence Belinda. You know, like Dr. Foster's, there are two bad evil and good evil. So this is like a silver here, keep warn Belinda. They whisper, they try to influence Belinda. So somehow they can protect and warn. The next one you have notable sylph that you must remember. Ariel is very, very important, the chief guardian leader of the sylph. Next, you have Zephrita, minor sylph, assigned to guard Belinda's fan. Brilliant, you have guards her earrings. Moventilla guards her watch. Crispisa guards her locks but fails to prevent the Baron from cutting it. So this could be very important. Who guards her locks? So it's Crispisa, but eventually fails and could not stop Baron to cut the lock of the hair. Then we have norms, important one. Norms, the one you have earth spirits who encourage mischief and spread scandal, created from women who were prudish and jealous in life. The points that you have to remember about norms here: supernatural beings, sylphs, air, mentioned norms, earth, nymphs, water, and salamanders, fire. So everything is mentioned: air, earth, water, and fire. Norms, earth spirits who encourage mischief and tries to spread a scandal. The situation that has happened with Belinda. So everything is here mentioned that there is a good side and bad side. Someone is trying to protect Belinda's dignity, and the someone who is trying to create a trouble as much as they can. So everything is here, bad and good side. The very important question, and also asked next favorite, you can say, Belinda's four pet. I have asked you a question already. In Canto 3rd, Pope humorously mentioned Belinda's four pets. The first one, Shock, very, very important. Shock is already appeared in one of the PYQs. Her lap dog. Shock is a lap dog of Belinda. most frequently referenced at symbolic of luxury and aristocratic vanity. Next one, you have two mysterious birds. They are not given any name but mentioned as kept in gilded cage. So which of the four pets kept in a gilded cage? So it is the two mysterious birds who are unknown. Then you have here a squirrel tied with a golden chain and who also represents fashionable idleness. Ariel, though you know, her guardian spirit from the self, so this should not be included here. Then you have here, remember the pet Shock, the lap dog of Belinda, the name is Shock. The next question that they ask about this work, Belinda's card game, the which game played by Belinda in the work Rape of the Lock. So it is a card game and known is as a ombre. Ombre is a card game. In the Rape of the Lock, Belinda plays a card game called Ombre, in which canto it is mentioned, so it is the canto third. It was a popular trick-taking game of a Spanish origin fashionable among the aristocracy during the 17th and early 18th century. So this was the Spanish origin of game and very much popular in the 17th and 18th century. So people were fascinated about this game and they keep playing. So this game is played between whom? So here there are three plays you have to remember. Belinda herself, Baron, the one who cuts the lock, and another nobleman. So these are the two highlights. Ombre is described in mock epic terms as if it were a battlefield. So they keep playing the game and eventually who wins the game? Let's see. Belinda wins the game that eventually symbolizes her temporary control and power before the Baron cuts her lock. Before the Baron cuts her lock, so it was a, you can say that Belinda after winning the game, she became more happy and what aftermath the situation created, this could be the situation. Then you have stylistic features. And the stylistic features that has been mentioned in the work, heroic couplets, very important. Oh God. Heroic couplets, epic conventions parodied, invocation of the muse, description of arming that is Belinda's here mentioned toilet, supernatural machinery self, epic battle card game, journey to the underworld, Umbriel's descent, wit, irony, balance and antithesis. Very, very important. Do not forget. The famous line you can remember simply, what mighty contest rise from trivial things, the lock now mingles with the stars. You know, after highlighting the work, I have created the summary by mentioning the important key points. You can go through all this. So element and details here. Genre, it is a mock epic. Heroine, you have protagonist Belinda. Villain, the Baron. Moral voice, Clarissa. Supporting human, Thalestris. Supernatural beings, you have Sylph, Ariel, Brilliant, Crispisa and Zeph Harriet. Gnomes. Symbolic rape, the cutting of the lock, it refers loss of honor and control, loss of power, loss of control, loss of dignity. So cutting of the leg here mentioned simply loss of hair, loss of honor. Key themes, gender roles, vanity, societal expectations, tribalizations and heroism. So this is the highlighted point. Canto wise breakdown I have also included, but have not joined the Telegram channel now. They will somehow need to know. So in the canto first, you will find Belinda wakes up from a dream sent by Ariel, warning her. Canto first. Canto wise, you have to remember her elaborate toilet scene, a parody of arming a warrior. Everything. Sylphs are assigned to guard her. So Ariel here in the canto first won in her dream, and Sales assigned it to guard Belinda. And what happens in Canto second? Belinda sails on the themes of Hampton Court, in which canto, the canto second. She plays the card game Ombre, dramatized like a battle scene. The whole situation while playing the game now, it is dramatized like they are in a battlefield. So the Baron cuts the lock of Belinda's hair, in which canto it is also in the canto second. The game and the lock cut took place in the canto second. In canto third, the theft causes social chaos. Ariel withdraws when he detects an earthly love in Belinda. Belinda is deeply upset. Well, once her hair is cut, so she gets upset. Canto 4, Umbriel descends to the cave of his spleen to collect a bag of science and grief to worsen Belinda's anguish. That means to create more trouble for Belinda. Also introduces a satire of women's mood swings and tribal complaints. So it is happened in Canto 4. Canto 5, Belinda confronts the Baron, the villain who cut the hair. Clarissa's speech is moral and practical. So in which canto Clarissa's speech is mentioned and she gave, so it is Canto 5. And Belinda confronts the Baron in also Canto 5. So Clarissa's speech is moral and practical. She delivers speech, beauty fades, virtue endures. Belinda attacks the Baron with snuff. Everything, the key point you must remember. Okay, move on to the next. Okay, so now I hope you all have very much understood what. Next one, you have an essay on criticism, 1711. You can cross check the date. A didactic poem in heroic couplets, iambic pentameter, rhymed in pairs. Offering a guide to literary criticism and poetic taste. And the structure of this work you have written when Pope was just 23 years old. Very, very important. This point is you must remember. It combines Horatian and neoclassical principles of decorum that balance and defines reason. It is divided into three main sections. An essay on criticism divided into three main sections. Remember the age, he was just 23 years old, Alexander Pope. And the three main sections you have here: qualities of a critic, pitfalls and faults of critics, and characteristics of true criticism and criticism's social role. This is what you will find in the work An Essay on Criticism by Alexander Pope. So he has divided into three main sections, and that main sections mentioned here: qualities, pitfalls, and characteristics of critics. The key points about this work you have to remember: qualification of a good critic, Alexander Pope has mentioned, so you must remember. On qualification of a good critic, what he has said, a good critic should have natural taste, learning, and humility. These are the lines, okay? And it is also mentioned that in which context this line has been quoted by Alexander Pope in the work An Essay on Criticism. So I have mentioned that also, okay? So qualification of good critic, he has mentioned these lines that a good critic should have natural taste, learning, and humility. And on study nature, what he has said, first follow nature, meaning true art reflects universal nature and not artificial rules. And by warning against half knowledge, he said that a little learning is a dangerous thing. Drink deep or taste not the Pierian spring. Very, very important. You can take a screenshot, you can simply join the Telegram channel to get the PDF. Then you have common faults according to Pope in critic. What type of faults he found in critics he has mentioned in this work. So pride and arrogance. Pride and arrogance in criticism are condemned. Critics often value style over substance. He criticizes overly rigid adherence to rules. So in somehow he's trying to convey that the critics should abide by the rules instead of getting so much rigid. And the lines that shows the false judgment also, some valuing books as some do women praise. The dress is rated not whether well they write. Each work by Alexander Pope is very important, so you have to remember. He also mentioned guidelines for good criticism and the role of ancient according to the Pope. So, what are those? According to Alexander Pope, true criticism involves understanding the intent of the author, by which intention the author is writing the work, by which intention he is trying to convey the feeling, convey the work, convey everything that he is trying to convey to the reader. So, the intent is important. Pope praises Horace, Aristotle, Longinus, and ancient critics. Also, he emphasizes on balance between wit and judgment. Very, very important. And the famous line you have to remember, true wit is nature to advantage breast, what oft was thought, but never so well expressed. This signifies that a critic should not blindly admire or harshly condemn, but instead, the best critics are those critics who also good poets themselves. So, there are important lines and the significance also highlighted. So, everything you should keep in mind. And also, just after finishing the class now, keep giving the mock test. I have shared the mock test link on the group. It's easy. You don't have to create any login or password, but you can simply go to the website and give a mock test. What are the form and style of this work? So, heroic couplet, that is iambic pentameter, compact and epigrammatic, full of quotable lines. That means in this work now you will find many quotes. Many quotes I have mentioned in this PDF. There are many, a lot. There are too many more. So you have to go through. Strong uses of antithesis, balance, and parallelism reflecting a neoclassical ideals. So don't you realize that this somehow neoclassical Alexander Pope somehow trying to uh, criticize the writer of his age, that why they are imitating the ancient writers, why are they not putting their own intention, they are not putting their own creative style, creative themes, creative technique. So somehow you can, by reading these lines now, we can imagine that he's somehow trying to highlight or criticize the writer of his own age. The point that you have to remember, this work was published in 1711, but not an essay in prose, but a poetic treatise. It is an essay in criticism. It influences Horace Ars Poetica, Aristotle's Poetics, influenced by famous line like to err is human, to forgive is divine. And interpretation, Pyrrhian spring and nature in Pope's view. Very important. Pyrrhian spring is a PYQ. After this unit, I will bring PYQs of June 2025. Students are requesting, so we will do that. Do subscribe the channel. While teaching you, I am forgetting to highlight and keep reminding you to subscribe the channel. If any of you have joined for the first time now, do subscribe the channel, everybody. And to get the PDF, you can simply join the Telegram channel. The link is given in bio and descriptions. Okay. So the three-part division of the work, you will find Pope's views on wit, judgment, and poetic balance. The second one, allusions to classical critics and poets, and the definition and features of a true critic and a false critic. True critic and false critic. So these are the divisions you will find in the work. An essay on criticism. An essay on criticism itself highlights that how much criticism he has done in this work. Then another important work by him is The Dunkard, 1728, and it is enlarged in 1743. It was published in version, the first version in 1728 and the revised version in 1729, 1743, and the final version is the Dunkard in 4 books. This work is about a mock epic written in heroic couplets. Mock epic, that is why Alexander Pope is known the master of mock epic style. Written in heroic couplets, modeled on works like Homer's Iliad and Virgil's Aeneid. Model on work like Homer's Iliad and Virgil's Aeneid, but instead of praising heroes, it satirizes dullness, mediocrity, very, very important, and the decline of literary taste. I told you in previous class that how neoclassical writers were busy in imitating the style of the ancient writers. So all these works by Alexander Pope, don't you find that he somehow tries to criticize all the writers of neoclassical itself? Here it is mentioned decline of literary taste. What are they writing? Why are they writing? Whom they are addressing? What are the intentions? They are not putting their own effort, they are not putting their own style, they are not putting their own technique, they're not becoming a creative writer, but instead of becoming all of these, they are just becoming dull, mediocre. So the Dunkard is mentioned here, dullness and mediocrity. Pope was reacting to the rise of hack writers, poorly educated authors, and the commercialization of literature. Poorly educated authors, you can simply understand the one who lacks education, and not just lack the education, but you can also understand like this: the one who is still well educated, but what is the benefit of being a well educated person if you are not bringing your own creative style in your literature? So that is why it is mentioned, and it refers in that term. Poorly educated authors, that doesn't signify that the writers are not educated, but they are educated, but they are not putting their effort to create, to be creative in their work. So title Dunkard is derived from the dunes. It is a word popularized by Pope to mock dull or foolish writers of the age. Foolish writers. So these are the highlights of. Now let's see what are the structure of the poem The Dunkard. The first version, you will find 3 books. Final version 1743, 4 books. And it is a verse form, heroic couplets, iambic pentameter. And the genre you will have satirical epic and the form heroic couplets. Okay. Main themes of the work The Dunkard. It is an attack on mediocrity and commercialization. Pope critiques how the print marketplace was filled with low quality literature. Low quality literature, dullness, mediocrity, poor education, everything is mentioned in the work. So remember the keyword. Okay, remember the keyword to also memorize the work. It will help you to get a good score if you remember the keyword. I told you in yesterday's class that rationalism, intellectualism, imitating, these are the words that you have to remember to define the age of neoclassical period, the writer. And also the dullness as a monstrous force. See what he has mentioned, monstrous force. Dullness is personified as a goddess and central antagonist in the negative sense who wishes to reduce all intellect and reason to nothing. Let's see what are the next. Also important, fall of intellectualism. It is a satirical vision of Britain where art, learning, and critical thinking are destroyed by mediocrity. Everything, according to Pope, in the work that he has mentioned, and we are understanding that somehow he is trying to convey that art, learning, literature, everything is vanishing. Not vanishing in the sense that they are disappearing, but he is trying to tell us that the quality of the literature, the quality of the art, the quality of the learning, the quality of the critical thinking of the writer is somehow destroying. And what are the words that he has mentioned? Mediocrity, the writers, lack of the education, poor educated writers, lack of creativity. So next one, corruptions of institutions. Pope doesn't just attack individual writers but also printers, publishers, critics, politicians, and academics. That's why I put the image, because neoclassical age, I told you how important, and the writer, you can see the expression how they are looking serious. Also, he has mentioned the role of satire. I took so much time to create my PDFs. My PDF are extremely valuable and precious. So please subscribe and share to more and more students. I just want to grow with my channel and provide this valuable, precious note to all of you, all the students. I want to. So the role of satire, it continues the tradition of Juvenalian satire that is bitter, biting, morally, and corrective. The next one, you have the key characters of the work, the goddess dullness. Dullness. That embodiment of stupidity and ignorance. Stupidity, ignorance, foolish, poor, mediocrity, dunkyard, everything. These are the keywords you can simply remember. The dunkyard, the work. She presides over the realm of mediocrity and selects new kings of dunes. That means dullness. One writer goes, what he has done, the another comes, but not with the creative ideas, but mentioned here the king of dunes. Louis Theobald, the original hero of the Dunkyard in 1722, 1728 version you will find the original hero, the Dunkyard. A Shakespeare editor whom Pope accused of pedantry and bad taste. In this work you find. This is important, Polly Fever. In the final version, 1743, Pope replaces Theobald with Polly Fever as the new hero. It is a Sieberite. So Colley Sieber was a dramatist, actor, and poet laureate. Pope despised him for his superficial success. And the last one here, others ridiculed writers, that is included hack writers, booksellers, critics like John Dennis, poets like James Moray, Smith, political figures, and even academics. How he is mentioned, he did not leave anybody. Booksellers, critics like John Dennis, writer, publishers, political figures, even the academic writers also, he has mentioned everything. He criticizes everything. He has called dull, foolish to everybody. Then the similarly, the way I have mentioned the canto wise, the rape of the lock. So similarly, this work is also the Dunkyard mentioned book wise. Book first, the goddess Dullness plans to crown a new king of dunes. And the action begins at a mock heroic games where dull writers and critics compete. The way I started laughing, mock Mac Flankno by John Dryden, in which how he uh, just signifies Thomas Shadwell, the by mentioning him as a dull writer. So this is how Alexander Pope somehow tried to mention. So King of Dunes, dullness. In the book second, a series of absurd competitions mocking the Aeneid or the Iliad to prove literary ineptitude. Book third, a journey through the underworld of literature, vision of educational, religious and political decline in book third. And the book fourth you will find added in 1743 presents the apocalyptic future where dullness defeats all reason and imagination. That means dullness has no, it has overcome everything. They have surpassed the reason, the imagination, the nature. They have surpassed everything, the dullness. It ends with a universal darkness buries all, signifying the triumph of ignorance. Important literary features you will find here: mock epic technique, the Dunkard work, that uses elevated style to describe tribal or foolish subjects. Heroic couplets you have masterfully used by Pope with balance, wit, and satire. Allusions to classical epics, especially the Aeneid and Iliad. Personification, dullness is a central symbol and symbolism. Darkness represents ignorance, pale symbolizes literary pollution. So you can simply remember. The major quotation you will find here: Thy hand great Anar lets the curtain fall and universal darkness buries all. From the work The Dunkard by Pope. Famous closing line of The Dunkard, this line is: In prose dullness is decent, in poetry it is unsupportable. This is the Pope's attack on bad poet. He clearly mentioned everything openly. While pensive poets painful vigils keep, sleepless themselves to give their readers sleep. It is an irony on bad poetry putting readers to sleep. That means readers to sleep. Why are you reading the such a bad poetry written by the bad poets? Instead, you should sleep. This is what he signifies. So I hope you have understood the everything point about the Dunkard. So now let's focus on the epistle to Dr. Arbuthnot. Epistle to Dr. Arbuthnot was written in 1735 and is one of Pope's most personal and defensive poems. It was addressed to his close friend and physician Dr. John Arbuthnot as a form of literary self-justification. By this point, Pope had endured years of criticism and attacks from his literary rivals. This poem is essentially a defense of his life, character, and poetic choices. So you can simply remember the work is mentioned his friend, close friend, physician, the Dr. John Arbuthnot. Okay, everybody. So, this work was written during a time when satirical attacks and literary feuds, one second, literary feuds were rampant in 18th century England. It acts as both farewell to public satire and a portrait of Pope himself. It is a deeply personal poem disguised as an epistle. This poem is essentially a defense of his life, character, and poetic choices. So do remember, okay? And it is mentioned. He has mentioned his doctor friend, that is physician John Arbuthnot. So that is why the title is Epistle to Dr. Arbuthnot. The name is. The full title of this work you have Epistle to Dr. Arbuthnot, being the prologue to the satires. It is composed in heroic couplets, iambic pentameter, and Pope's defense of his poetic career and satirical method. This work is poetic career and satirical method. This work is a defense of Pope. The genre, form, and style technique of the work you will have. Genre is it? This work is epistle, satirical verse, and autobiographical poem. Form: heroic couplet, iambic pentameter lines. Style: Augustan satire, polished, formal, witty, and classical in tone. And the technique, very important, juxtaposition of irony and sincerity, dramatic monologue structure, allusions to classical and contemporary figures, use of invective and mockery, and ethical positioning and rhetorical questioning. So these are the techniques. Next one you have to remember here, moral essays, that was around 1731 to 35. Moral essay is a series of 4 verse epistles written by Pope between 1731 and 1735, forming part of his broader project titled Imitations of Horace. This work is inspired by the Roman poet Horace. Pope uses this work to explore human behavior, morality, social norms, and the nature of individual character and virtue in 18th century British society. These essays are didactic and satirical, where Pope adopts a philosophical tone to critique the vanities, inconsistencies, and moral failures of aristocrats, politicians, women, and men of letters. So, essay on criticism, Dunkirk, moral essays, he keep criticizing everything. They are not abstract philosophical essays but rather ethical portraits grounded in particular social types, individuals, and real life aristocrats. So, this is the moral essay by Alexander Pope that is written in 4 verse epistle. The structure of the 4 epistle you will find epistle first, it is of the knowledge and characters of men, 1731. Again, 1731 examines human nature, why people behave inconsistently, act selfishly, or pursue contradictory aims. This is like a question John Alexander Pope trying to ask that why people behave inconsistently, they act foolishly, selfishly, or also they pursue contradictory aims. It concludes that self-interest guides all actions. It is true. Famous line you have to remember, know then thyself, presume not God to scan. The proper study of mankind is a man. Epistle 2 of the characters of women, that is in 1735. It is a satirical portrayal of women, particularly those in high society. It discusses vanity, inconsistency, ambition, and moral confusion. It also introduced the characters Belinda, a nod to his earlier rape of the lock, as well as other types. In which epistle? Epistle second, the character Belinda is mentioned. Infamously ambiguous and often criticized for misogyny, yet also reflects Pope's complex view on gender roles. So it is a controversial for its portrayal of women. So Epistle Second in Moral Essays is a controversial for its portrayal of women, that is Belinda, Narcissa, and Atossa. So it was controversial. Epistle Third, you have here of the use of riches, 1733, addressed to Lord Bathurst, discussed wealth, charity, greed, and the social responsibility of the rich people, rich society. It condemns the misuse of riches and advocates for public-minded philanthropy. So, in Epistle Third, he somehow tries to justify or talk in the favor of public-minded, the common people. Epistle 4, again, it's of the use of riches of the characters of Great Britain, that is in 1734. It addresses nobility, political corruption, and flawed leadership in Britain. So it is a moral attack on the rich who pretend to be virtue. Pretentious. Rich people who try to be pretentious. So he has mentioned this. So I hope you all are now able to understand everything about the poem by Alexander Pope, whether it's a rape of the law, essay on criticism, the Dunkirk. These works, now let me tell you, it are very important from your exam perspective. So do keep revise and do watch the video very If I have missed any part or any detail to put in my PDF, you can notify me, everybody. Now we have Jonathan Swift. Jonathan Swift, 1667 to 1745. And let's see, don't you find he looks like, comment how he looks. So Jonathan Swift, everyone, Jonathan Swift, best known for his prose satire, Gulliver's Travel. You know how important it is, divided in four. Was also a prolific poet. His poetry is marked by biting satire, ironic humor, and political commentary, and an unromantic, realistic tone that contrasted with the more decorative style of his contemporaries like Pope. So he was also one of the major influence of the Neoclassical Age, and mostly majorly he is known for the work Gulliver's Travel. Okay, so he asked the four division of the work, the name, the a city that Gulliver Travel visit. So here you have to remember the poem by Jonathan Swift, Verses on the Death of Dr. Swift. This is a Swift's self-written poetic obituary. It is one of the finest examples of mock elegy in English literature. Swift reflects satirically and critically on his own life, society, and how people will react after his death. So what people is going to react, what people is going to respond when Jonathan Swift will die. So he has mentioned in his verses on the death of Dr. Swift, Dr. Swift, that means Dr. Jonathan Swift. Okay, and what are the highlights of this work? It is written in heroic couplets, the theme that is popular in the neoclassical, displays satirical tone and bitter irony, reflects on public hypocrisy, the flickerness of fame, and vanity of human affairs. Also, he uses the third person perspective to examine his life critically. He includes references to real life friends and enemies, and the genre mock elegy, satirical poem. The famous line he has, he gave the little wealth he had to build a house for fools and mad. So, what happened when he would die? And what the people will say, what the people will react, how the people will react on his death, he has tried to mention this in the work Verses on the Death of. Next work we have a description of City Shower 1710. It is a satirical and realistic portrayal of life in the streets of London during a rainstorm. It breaks away from romanticized poetic conventions, and the highlights you have, it appeared in Tatler magazine. Which one of the work by Jonathan Swift appeared in the Tatler magazine? So it is a description of Cities Hour 1710 publication. It is known for realistic urban imagery, unlike typical Augustan poetic themes, parodies the Virgilian Georgic style. Genre you have urban satire, and it is inspired by the poets like T.S. Eliot in their depiction of urban decay. Next one you have a beautiful young nymph going to bed, 1731. It is a brutal, grotesque satire of prostitution and physical decay in London. So somehow Jonathan Swift, what you are finding, what you are understanding, that he has depicted the society, the London, the circumstances that were prevailed in that era during the particular time period in the London society that challenges the idealization of beauty, and the highlights. It shows a Swift's misanthropic and satirical tone. It is stark imagery of a young prostitute removing makeup, wig, and teeth, etc. Interesting it is. Social commentary on the exploitation of women, very, very important. And the genre, satirical dramatic monologue. Who is the Founder of romantic monologue. Comment your answer. Two times the monologue appeared, so you have to tell. Next one you have the ladies' dressing room. Ladies' dressing room, 1732. Swift satirizes the illusion of female beauty by describing the horrors found in a lady's private dressing room, and it targets vanity and artificiality. Female beauty, artificiality, vanity, mentioning the makeup, the whole situation that they has to go, they have to go. Genre you have mock epic satire. It provoked the Lady Mary Wortley. Very, very important. The work Lady Mary Wortley, Montague's poetic response. There is a reason that included Dr. S to write a poem called The Lady's Dressing Room. Lady's Dressing Room. It uses graphic and grotesque imagery for comic effect. So this work is also very important. Just remember the key points of all the work. The next one you have is Strephon and Chloe, 1731. It is a narrative verse exploring themes of love, sexuality, and decay. It continues Swift's interest in exposing the physical reality beneath romantic idealism. It uses classical references to critique of 18th century morals, also in the genre satirical narrative poem. The work is Strephon and Chloe. Next work we have Cadmus and Vanessa, written in 1713 and published posthumously in 1726. It is a semi-autobiographical poem dedicated to Esther von Homrich, that is Vanessa, describing Swift's mentorship and the complex romantic dynamic. And the highlight of the work you have to remember, Cadmus is an anagram of Decanus. Analogy it is. Latin for dean. Swift's title explores themes of intellect, gender roles, and unattainable love. And the genre of the work is romantic satire and allegorical poem. Cadmus is an anagram. Anagram, you know, no letter you have to rearrange to make another word. So it becomes decanus. It is a Latin word that means dean. And the very important work, The Progress of Beauty. It is a commentary on the artificial construction. This type of question, when you miss a small minor work by the writers, major writers, appear in the chronology part, matching part. So that's why students get confused that this is the question, tricky question that NTA has put. So it is an artificial construction of beauty in women. It related thematically to the ladies' dressing room. It comments on the deceptive nature of physical appearance, and the genre you have satirical poem. So after Jonathan Swift, the first John Dryden, second Alexander Pope, third Jonathan Swift, and the fourth very important Samuel Johnson. These are the major representative of the work neoclassical, neoclassical. So now we are going to discuss the work of Samuel Johnson. So Samuel Johnson here, Samuel Johnson, who was a major literary figure of the 18th century, is best known for his critical prose, lexicography. He compiled the dictionary, you know, but he also wrote moral and philosophical poetry too. So that's why we are studying him in the poetry unit 2 poetry section. Poetry that reflects neoclassical values, Stoic philosophy, and Augustan themes. So the writer belonged to the one particular age. They describe the theme techniques of that particular era in their work. Now the most important poem by Samuel Johnson, you have The Vanity of Human Wishes, published in 1749. It is a profound philosophical poem model on juvenile tenth satire. This work reflects on the futility of worldly ambitions and the inevitability of human suffering. human suffering. This work is written in heroic couplets, that is iambic pentameter. And the theme that you will explore here: ambition, fame, power, wealth, mortality, and the illusion of worldly success. And this work is also reflects Christian stoicism and also resignation to divine will. This work is dedicated to the Earl of Chesterfield, very, very important pointer, who later disappointed Samuel Johnson. The poem here critiques historical figures like Charles XII of Sweden, Wolsey, and Siemens to show the downfall of pride. The key theme of the work: man's desires are often his downfall. Man's desire, not man's desire, but human's desire always lead to their downfall. The famous line that you have to remember: how small of all that human hearts endure, that part which kings or laws can cause or cure. The genre of the work you have philosophical meditative satire and considered John's greatest poetic work. The Vanity of Human Wishes is the greatest poetic work by Samuel Johnson. What he has mentioned, humans' wishes are unlimited, and that wishes become your downfall someday. Next important poem by Samuel Johnson, you have the London. It is asked in PYQs. Remember, there is another work, London. The London is by, I think, W.B. Yeats. So this is the London 1738 published. Full title: London, a poem in imitation of the third satire of Juvenal. The full title: it is a political satire model on Juvenal's third satire. It criticizes the corruption, moral decay of London under Sir Robert Walpole's administration. So in London, majorly what Samuel Johnson has portrayed, what he has tried to convey or signifies the corruption, the morality, the decay of the London by whose kingship? So it is Sir Robert Walpole. In whose administrationship? So it is Sir Robert Walpole's administrationship. He found, he faced, he observed, he experienced corruption, moral decay. So that is what he has mentioned in the work London, that was published in 1738. And also remember the full title of the work. What does it highlight? Johnson's first major poem published anonymously. This is written in heroic couplet. It uses a Roman model, that is Juvenal, to comment on 18th century London. It attacks political corruption, rising crime, and loss of patriotism. Also, earlier readers like Pope praised its classical style and a strong critic and said Johnson would be a great poet. So somehow Alexander Pope, what he was doing, he was also criticizing everyone. So that is why he praised this work by Samuel Johnson, and that's why he said that Samuel Johnson would be a great poet. He targets Robert Walpole's government, his administrationship. That means in his administrationship, nothing is going well. People are finding corruption. People are facing corruption. People are facing rising in crimes. They are losing the patriotism. So this is what he has mentioned. The theme you will find in this work: urban decay, exile, loss of virtue. And the famous opening line you have: though grief and fondness in my breast rebel, when injured Thales beats the town farewell. Here Thales represents the poet's friend, likely Richard Savage. It is likely, that means not confirmed. And the genre you have Juvenalian satire, urban poem. You must remember every highlighted poem. Next work you have on the death of Dr. Robert Levitt, 1782. It is an elegy for a humble, eccentric physician who served the poor, deeply personal and sincere in tone. It highlights the mourns the death of Johnson's longtime friend and housemate, that praises virtue over social rank. It also uses simple diction and moral seriousness. So the work On the Death of Dr. Robert Levitt by Samuel Johnson. The famous line, the tone, reflective, solemn, famous line, officious, innocent, sincere, of every friendless name, the friend. These are the short poems by Samuel Johnson you must remember. Though lesser known, Johnson also wrote to Miss Hickman, playing on the spinet. It is a tribute to music and feminine talent. To a Friend, a short philosophical reflection, an evening and ode. Explores the serenity and the beauty of dusk. So these are the minor works by Samuel Johnson you must remember. Apart from all these major writers now, I have included the minor writers also related to all the three ages, that is the age of Johnson, age of Dryden and Augustan age. So when I will share the PDF on Telegram channel now, you can read yourself. Okay. So thank you so much for watching everybody. Do subscribe the channel. We are about to reach 1K. We will have 1K family now, but I don't know when. Do join the Telegram channel for the PDF and note. And also, if you have any queries or questions, do make it note down. We will have a doubt session on next live class. Okay. Thank you so much for watching. Take care of yourself. Bye bye.